Welcome to another edition of Church Media Design TV, tips, tricks, and how-to for you, the Church Media Designer. Well, I'm your host, Brad Zimmerman, and joined with me is my friends who unfortunately have to go back to school. It's the three wise men in Jesus. We got Colonel Sanders, Little Whitey, Dwight Schrute making some trouble, and of course, Jesus Christ, the Son of the Lord Most High. Well, in this week's edition of CMD, we're going to continue our series on 3D text, and we're going to do some animation inside Blender, as well as a whole bunch of other stuff and some great news for you. So let's get into it. Well, this week in news, we have some really cool stuff going on. Google actually came out with a new browser today, their own browser today, and it's called Google Chrome, and you can find it at, google.com/Chrome. And it's a Windows only, it's in beta, and you can see it here, and it's pretty cool. There's some interesting features. It's very lightweight. One thing you can note is the top of the screen, there is no toolbar. They've made that disappear, and there's no file menu and all of that kind of stuff. So that's a little bit different. If we would go to reader.google.com and go to that page, and if we would sign in to our Google Reader, one really interesting thing is we can go over here to this little page and we can do create application shortcut. And it's actually going to pull up and it's going to pull an icon out of this page. I'm not really sure where they're saving this at. But then we can say, hey, do we want this in desktop or start menu or quick launch? So we'll say desktop and start menu and hit OK. And it will pop up a new window, and we can minimize that. And if we go to the desktop, you can see now we have this Google Reader icon right on our desktop. And if we go into our start menu, we can see that they've added a Google Reader icon right to our start menu there. And it's pretty cool. If you double click on it, it basically brings up a even lighter weight version of the browser with no back buttons, but it's meant for your web application, so you can have desktop icons for web apps, which is kind of like web clips for the iPhone if you're familiar with that. So that's one really interesting thing. The other thing that they do is they also have a new incognito window, and it doesn't save cookies and bookmarks and all that kind of stuff, which is super shady, and I don't like the idea of it because basically it sounds like a porn browser, and that's super shady, and we want to stay away from that. So I'm not really sure why you really need this, but maybe it's a good thing, but who knows. They put it in there, so it's there. But anyway, so check out Google Chrome. The other thing is Adobe announced just recently that they're going to be unveiling Adobe Creative Suite CS4. CS3 came out over a year ago, and CS4 is going to be the unveiling of it. It's going to be on the 23rd. And if you go to adobe.istreamplanet.com, you can sign up to be notified when the live streaming event of all of the new features in CS4 and all of that kind of stuff. One other quick news item that came out a while ago is that they decided all of the production suite stuff was built for a Intel processor for Macs, except for After Effects. They still supported PowerPC for After Effects, and they've decided to drop PowerPC processors for the new version of After Effects. So your old G4s that have PowerPC chips in them won't work with CS4, but you really don't want to be using that old of a computer with that new of a program, so it's not that big of a deal anyway. So head over to Adobe, check out that news brief, and get yourself signed up to be notified about that event, and I'm sure I'll tell you all about it when it comes out. And check out Google Chrome. Well, I wanted to tell you guys about a concert that I had a chance to go to. I got to go to Hillsong United live in Chicago, and it was amazing. The event, they had the core. They didn't have their huge full band, but I mean, Joel Houston and most of the gang were here in Chicago playing, and we had balcony seats in this theater, and we were like third row in on the balcony, and me and my girlfriend went down there for that, and it was just an amazing experience, and it was so cool. I had seen Hillsong before, and the event, the people who were putting on the event like did a really poor job of it, and so it kind of like I was a little iffy about going to this concert, but this concert was unbelievable. The audio mix in this show was, if you pop in a Hillsong CD, it sounded exactly the same. they must have had a live sound guy touring with them, because they were spot on with every guitar riff. Every time a vocal needed to be turned up, they knew the songs like the back of their hand and were mixing it so well. If you're not familiar with Hillsong and you want to check out some great stuff, I would encourage you to check out all of their CDs as well as the DVDs that come with the Hillsong United stuff. And you're seeing some footage of some of the, I mean, their concerts are just unbelievable looking, and their DVD footage is just gorgeous, and it's a great place for inspiration to like see some cool effects. And I'm going to actually do some of how they do a couple of their effects in their DVDs in a tutorial in the future. But the event was really amazing. Brian Houston, the lead pastor of Hillsong Church in Australia, is touring with them right now. And so he spoke about the church and talked about, you know, this 20-something and singles and young couples attitude about the church and why the church sucks and all this kind of stuff. And so it was really cool to hear his take and why we need to embrace the church and why the church is the hope for the world. And so that was just amazing. And I would just really encourage you guys to check it out. The one other thing that happened that I'm super excited about is I actually proposed to my girlfriend, and we're getting married. And so I proposed actually at the Hillsong concert. During it, we kind of found some time away from all of the crowd, and Hillsong was playing in the background. And so I'm super excited about that. And so we're going to get married, and so that's a really fun thing. So sorry, ladies, but she's the one for me, and I don't want anything else. So that's a little bit about our weekend in Chicago and a great time at the Hillsong United concert. So this week we're going to step back inside Blender and continue our series on 3D text, and it's kind of 3D text slash Blender. And so we're going to be talking about animation inside Blender today, and then next week we're actually going to jump inside After Effects and import that data into there and show you how to use it. But this week we're going to just worry about the animation. And as you can see over here, I'm looking at my top view, and what we have here is our light, our camera, and then our text. And then we actually have another layer, which is this giant big flat plane. And I'll show you kind of how I did this. If we view this from the side angle, what I actually did is I set up a camera just facing right at my text, and then I have a light that's pretty far off and high above that we can do some shadowing and do some different lighting with. And then we have that plane underneath that the text is actually kind of hovering above. And so if I would render this real quick, you'll see what I'm talking about. So as you can see there, the text is kind of hovering above the plane, and you can see some good shadowing going on underneath it. Now the one thing to take note of, that took, if you look up here, that took 1 minute and 26 seconds and 26 frames, or 26 milliseconds, to render that one frame out. And part of it is the size of it, part of it is because I'm not super familiar with Blender, so I'm not super familiar on how to make my renders go faster. But it takes a while, and I'm on a quad-core PC right now, and it took that much time. So keep in mind that your renders are going to take a while when you're doing this, and so you want to make a good amount of changes and then test it. Also, one thing when you're in testing, a cool thing that you can do is you can come down here into the render area and you can check border. So if I do Shift B, it'll give me a like a cross here, and I can say, well, I just want to render this one little part. And so now when I hit F12, it's just going to render me this one small section so I can see how my text and my shadow looks. So I don't have to wait for the entire frame, which is really nice when you're doing small changes to, let's say, a texture or to your lighting, and you want to know how it's hitting this big, huge scene, but you really only need to look at one area to see how the changes are made. So that's nice. Also, you can shut off, like if I would shut off ray tracing, you can see, and we'll shut off our border. I'll click render, and it's done. It goes really, really fast. And the ray tracing is actually tracing how the light rays from the fake light in 3D go down and bounce off of that text and create the shadow and create some of the shadowing on the actual text. So that's what's taking most of the time. So if we get rid of that, we'll be a lot better off. So we're going to get rid of that for now while we're messing around. But I'll show you how to make that plane real quick. So let's say we wanted to, we'll go over to view and we'll do top view again, and we'll right click on our plane and we'll delete that plane. So we've erased that object. And now we're going to go up to the top and we're going to do add, and we're going to go to mesh, and we're going to go to plane. And now it's given us a plane, and we can mess around with this plane now. So we're going to change our view to a side view so that we can see where that plane's at, and we're going to bring it up right onto the green line here, which is kind of our floor. It's a fake floor that they just kind of give you in 3D so you know where you're actually working. And again, I'm shift center mouse clicking to dolly left and right, and then I am right clicking on my object and then left clicking to move that object. Then we can switch back to our view of our top, and we can move this plane over into the center. And then we're just going to drop it down so it's sitting underneath our text. So that's looking pretty good right there. So now what we need to do is we need to scale that thing up. So last time I showed you how we can rotate an object, but now I'll show you how you can scale. So in our top viewport, down over here, we're going to click on this square, which is the scale manipulator mode. And we're just going to stretch this out. We'll actually zoom out so we can stretch a lot bigger and a lot faster. And we'll just scale this guy way huge. And I'm watching my camera view right now to get my approximate size. Then we can go into our camera view and we can kind of move this back until it's taking up that whole area. Hit F12, and it's looking pretty good, except we got our 3 is dropping into that layer. So we'll just drop it down just a hair, hit F12 again, and we're pretty good. Now if we want to, let's hit that border again. We'll do Shift B, and we'll just draw it around this the bottom of the 3D, and we'll turn our ray tracing back on, and we'll hit F12 and check out what our shadowing looks like with our new floor. So as you can see, our new floor looks pretty good, and it looks like it's sitting pretty far away. I'd like to see what it would look like if we dropped it even further away, so I'm just going to drop it down quite a ways, and I'm going to hit F12 again, and we'll see what this looks like. So this is looking like it's going to be pretty cool. So now that I see, hey, that looks like it looks nice, now I'm actually going to shut the border off, and I'll render out that entire frame. So now with our text sitting a little bit higher, it actually looks pretty cool. And what we're going to do is we're actually going to have our text slide in from the right side, and maybe we'll have it rotate as it's turning or as it's sliding over, and then we'll have it slide out from the other side, and then we'll be able to use that animation inside After Effects next week. So now let's actually take a look at how to do the animation. So now to do animation, we want to pull up our timeline. We can do a couple different things. Again, we can go to the right side here and we can right click and we can do split area and we can make a new area. Or if we don't want to do that, let's undo that real quick. So we will right click in between, we will do join areas, and then we will join upwards. But since I'm just doing animation right now, I really don't need my properties panel, which is actually called the buttons window, but it's basically properties. So I can just change this window from buttons to timeline. And so now that I'm in my timeline view, I have this big giant view, and you can see right now I'm on the start. My start frame is at 1 and my end frame is at 250. And you need to take this into account, because if you say play on your timeline, it's going to play 1 to 250. When maybe we only need to use like 90 frames of animation. Because what we're going to do inside After Effects is we're actually going to take this video, which we're going to slide in our text and then slide the text out, but that middle frame, we don't need to click and hold that middle frame. We can actually time remap that inside After Effects. So we'll just have it slide in, sit there for like 1 or 2 frames, and then slide out, because why waste a bunch of time rendering something that looks exactly the same? So we'll just do like, maybe a 90 or 100. So I'm going to click and hold on 250, and then we'll be able to change that to 100. And now you can see we have all of this extra space that we don't need, so I'm going to go to View, and then I'm going to go to View All, and that will make it so my timeline is from 1 to 100. It's also a way to zoom out on your timeline if you would zoom into a certain area. So the first thing we need to do is set up our timeline so it can record. So what we'll do is we'll go down and hit the record button, and if you can see here, the mode that we're in right now is automatic keyframe insertion, automatic keyframe insertion for objects and bones. And so basically what this does is anytime you move or change a property, it automatically adds a keyframe for you, which is really nice when you know what you want to do. So what we'll do is we'll select our text, we'll right click on our text, and we'll just click and drag it out of the frame over here. And then we'll go down our timeline. So let's go down to, let's say, 30 frames, 1 second, which is pretty long for an animation like that. And then we need to use our other viewport over here. So we're going to change this to a perspective view and change it to a user view so that we can rotate around, and we'll switch our from scale back to our just regular move, and we'll click and move this guy until he's in the center of the frame. So now with that in the center of the frame, we can watch that first move. So we'll just rewind to the beginning, and you'll see we have 3D text. So if you want to add in a key at frame 35 so it holds between 30 and 35, you need to have your object selected, and then you're going to hit the I key, and it's going to pull up the Insert Key dialog box, and this is for manual keyframes. We're going to just insert a location keyframe, and now we've inserted that extra one. So now we can go down to, let's say, maybe 65, so we'll have 30 frames out, and we'll just take our marker, and we're on auto keying mode, and we're just going to scrub this guy over. And now if we rewind back to the beginning and watch this, it's going to sit, hold, and then leave. And so we have our animation pretty much done. We can actually change our timeline down to 65 frames so that we don't have that extra, and again we'll go to View and we'll do View All and have that. Now what if we want to, at the beginning, we want to start it and have it be a little bit rotated? Well, it's pretty easy, so we're just going to grab our rotation tool, we'll zoom in here to our text and whip around, and we're going to go and just rotate him a little bit backwards. So now if we watch our animation, we got to watch our camera viewport so that it's not showing in there. And if we need to, we'll just move it back over. So we'll just grab our move tool and we'll just move it sideways until it's out of the view. We'll go back to the beginning and hit play, and we'll see how it rotates in and out. Now one cool thing is we can actually manually add in some extras. So let's go back and we'll hit pause and we'll go back and undo that. So we're just going to do Control Z until we get our text back to normal. And we're going to go down to, let's say, frame, let's go down to about frame, maybe 20 is when we want it to be pretty straight. So we'll do our I, and we're going to add in a rotation keyframe there. And then we'll go back to the beginning, and then we'll rotate and move that object to where we want it to be. So now we're just going to rotate this guy until we get it the way we want it, and we'll move it over a little bit. This is all on your own preference, but now if we go back to and hit play, it'll rotate and then come in. And it's not like a crazy rotation, but it's pretty cool. And maybe we want to make it a little bit more pronounced. Maybe we want to move it forward towards the camera. So now when we hit play, it's coming from like right up by the camera and coming back. So we can, make that a little bit crazier if we want to, and maybe bring that over until it's right by the frame. So it's kind of got, you can see the 3D-ness of that text. So now we can do the same on the out. So we'll go to right about here, and we'll we're going to start our rotation right away here, and we want our rotation to finish by the time it hits right about there. So we'll go back and we're going to do I, and we're going to insert a rotation keyframe, and we're going to rotate this text object until we get it looking the way we want it to. And then we'll probably end up pushing it back in space a little bit. So we'll grab our move tool, move it back in 3D space a little bit, and then we'll probably have to move to the end of our timeline and maybe mess around with how far back it is in space and over there. So now if we go through and watch, it kind of rotates in and then flips out real fast. So that's just a random idea. Maybe it would be better just to do a classy push across, but those are some thoughts for you. And then what we'll do at the end, of course, is we're going to go back to view, and we're going to view our button window, and we're going to click on our render, which is this little scene, which is F10, and we'll render out our animation. And we can tell it, we'll make this a little bit bigger, we can tell it how many frames we want to do. So we can start at 1 and go to 65, and then again we'll key it and we'll send that out. And we want to save that again as a PNG with RGB alpha is what we want that saved as. And so then we can save out all of that data and bring that inside After Effects. So hopefully that gives you a good start on how to do some animation inside inside Blender. After Effects is next week. The last thing is, remember you can hit that I key and set down any manual keyframes you want, or you can just use the auto keyframe and change things as you go. So there's a lot more that you can do with it, but that's a good little start for you inside Blender. Well, this week's inspiration comes from yet another blog that is in my Google Reader because, well, you can understand what I do all day. And it's ISO 50, and he's the visual work of Scott Hansen, and he does amazing work. If you've seen the Barack Obama poster out in public that was really well designed, it was Scott Hansen's work. And he blogs about a lot of the stuff that he does, as well as some great stuff from out and about in the design world. And one really cool thing that caught my attention was the Sharpie Lamborghini. Yes, you heard it here first on CMD. Somebody took a Sharpie to a white Lamborghini and made it look amazing. So you can check out some pictures here, as well as we'll check out on Flickr, and you can see like close-ups of some of the different detail and it's amazing. And it only took 2 weeks, and it's a shop out in Miami, or down in Miami, that did this, and it's unbelievable, and it's a really cool idea. And you know, sometimes you might just need to take a Sharpie to something and make it look better. So check out ISO 50 and his great blog, as well as the Sharpie Lamborghini. We want to thank our sponsor of WorshipHouseMedia.com, resources for the creative church. You can head over to their website and check out their amazing new clearance section that I just found. There's a lot of great videos on there from producers like 36 Parables and Angel House Media and a whole lot more. So check out some of the clearance stuff, and you can use our promo code of CMDtv1 and get 25% off your order at Worship House. So check out worshiphouse.com and make sure to use CMDtv1. Well, thanks for tuning in to another edition of Church Media Design TV. I'm so glad you guys were here, and I would love to encourage you to tell others about the show and to spread the word and spread the resource out. Next week, we're going to be continuing our series on 3D text and finishing up inside After Effects and showing how to do 3D text inside of After Effects, as well as what to do with that animation sequence we rendered out of Blender. So you can look forward to that, as well as more interviews and more great products and news, so you can check all of that out, as well as I would love to hear about what's going on in your local church and how we can be of assistance to you, or how we can be a resource to you. So send me an email, brad@ChurchMediaDesign.tv, leave a comment on the website, or you can hit me up on Skype, which is Vinmark Productions. Also, which I already just said, you can stay in touch with us via Twitter. And we've been Twittering again during the show and showing behind the scenes photos of the whole production and what I do in between takes, if you've ever wondered the mystery. So you can go over to twitter.com/CMDtv and find out about us at CMD during the week, and Adam's taking photos while we're doing editing and what we're doing in the whole process. So catch a glimpse of the behind the scenes production of CMD via Twitter. So I would love to hear from you guys, but as for me and the three wise men and Jesus and my t-shirt that's been changing colors the entire show, let's see you later. Bye. me in the microphone? Is this loud enough? I don't think we need to use the mic this week, okay? Adam, can you hear me? Am I loud enough? What are you doing? Adam, can you hear me? Adam, am I blowing your eardrum out?
What is going on?
Adam, can you hear that? That sounds like feedback. Adam, it sounds like feedback. Can you help me?
Can you EQ that, Brad? Brad, EQ the mic. I'm getting some
Okay,
feedback.
let me EQ the mic.
What? EQ the mic, Willis.
Okay, thank you.